All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case as always. We've got a shit ton of news to cover today, much more than yesterday or any other day prior, actually. We have 10 different news stories. I had to bump a couple of them off. I'm not even going to bother covering Sri Lanka because I covered it yesterday in part, even though the collapse continues. I don't even have enough time to cover all of the news. This is why I think I'm going to end up live streaming at least 5 days a week from here on out, and basically most weeks, probably all 7. It's fun, it's lucrative, and there's too much shit to cover that's important. So I've decided to become a streamer. I've sold out, haven't I? We'll make sure that we're live on Rumble. Hold up a second, everyone, cross-platform, as we make sure that the stream is working and chat too. Please stand by. Okay, we're live. I don't see any Rumble rants yet. If you're watching on Rumble, please do drop a comment in the Rumble rants if it's working. The other day, of course, it didn't. The Real 1984 on Twitch. First time I'm watching here. Many such cases. Make sure to share it with all of your friends. Monkey Bomb Studios on Rumble confirming. Okay, I am here. Yes, Rumble rants are actually working. The laundry just got done. Yeah. Be right back. No, I'm just joking. But we've got 10 different news stories to cover. Some crazy shit. So we'll get right into it because, of course, limited time. I should probably, in the future, I want to have an actual, studio area. The cats aren't allowed in, so cat hair is no longer a fucking problem. Have a bunch of fly strips on one wall so I don't have to worry about them either. I like a good fresh breeze when I'm streaming. The garden door is open. We will be looking up these 10 news stories. And we're going to start with hashtag Pedo Peter. This is another Hunter Biden revelation. Again, I cannot independently confirm any of the new revelations about Hunter Biden. I'm not going to download the files. I'm going to leave that to the experts, to the people that are behind 7 boxies, and they're disseminating material. Here's a tweet here, and of course, cross-platform links in the description. If you want to follow along, all of the links are there. You can read ahead and shit like that too. Make sure to do your own fact-checking. Don't trust just my analysis. Trust your instincts. This is from Slotip East. Whatever you do today, do not trend or look at 4chan and Pedo Peter. And he's tweeting out an image here by RJ Kassam. Now, this is a verified account, so the blue check marks on Twitter, they come in 2 forms, people that are very reliable and people who are always unreliable. I wonder which one Paul Krugman would fall under. In October 2020, we reported exclusively that Joe Biden used the pseudonym Peter Henderson. Apparently, this is a movie reference, and he used it on his email and other things. Now, 4chan has discovered that his son Hunter had Joe saved in his iPad, or I think he means iPhone, I'm not sure actually, as Pedo Peter. This is from the National Pulse. I don't really have words to describe this. The problem is that it corroborates, assuming this is true, and again, this could be a distraction, it could be a honeypot pile of horse shit. The allegation is that Hunter Biden had Joe saved in his Apple device, whichever device he was using. I'm pretty sure it was a phone, not an iPad. I'll try to fact check that later. I'll do my best. The allegation is that Pedo Peter was his dad's nickname within his phone or his Crapple device. The problem is that we have a plethora of images, videos, etc., of Joe Biden being creepy with children. That's number one. We have Ashley Biden's diary, which was corroborated. We know that it's real. It triggered an FBI investigation when it was stolen, arguably by Veritas, actually obtained in an abandoned house. It had been left behind or something like that. That Ashley Biden's diary, and there she claims that Joe Biden was showering with her naked, because that's how you shower, at an advanced age, and she felt that it was inappropriate. She had a multi-page screed about her sexual experiences with friends and shit like that, and that happened to come up. So I can't independently confirm whether this is true. Other people can definitely fact check it. Please do DM me on Twitter. If you have the skinny on any of the Hunter Biden revelations that we're getting, it would be good if you could front that to me. It's very, very helpful, especially for live streaming news purposes. But I am very, very cautious about giving any credence to the releases. This almost is suspicious just because it comports so closely to what I think Joe Biden would be like. Oh, yeah, Hunter Biden, crackhead, literally crackhead, perverted degenerate, saves him in his phone as pedo Peter. Now, under normal circumstances, if we didn't have anything else on Biden, so Ashley Biden's diary didn't exist, we didn't have pictures of him creeping on little girls, hugging them a little bit too closely and potentially in an inappropriate manner, sniffing women's hair and shit. Under other circumstances, I would say, well, his cracked out, zonked out son saved him in there as a joke, effectively. It's an inside joke. It's his way of, he doesn't like his dad or something. He did complain about him not visiting him or calling him when he was in rehab, apparently. That was revealed the other day, and that's been corroborated. Under normal circumstances, therefore, I would assume that it was some sort of joke. Under these circumstances, I'm not sure that I can assume that this is a joke, obviously, whether it's corroborated or not. And you'd think the legacy media should obtain these files, look through them and say, well, we can corroborate that these are real, or we can't corroborate that they're real. Or potentially we can corroborate that they're not real. It's a bunch of bullshit. It's a hit job on Joe Biden. You'd think they would look into it and say, well, we got this material. Maybe it's real, maybe it's not, and this is the claim within. But they don't do investigative journalism anymore. By the way, to all of those people that still suck the cock of Fox News, you'll notice that they're not reporting on this either now, are they? Maybe belatedly you'll get a mention of it from Tucker Carlson. That's all you're going to get from that fucking network. Matt Danny, Styx becomes a dad and sells out. Diapers aren't cheap. More power to you. Take my money. Yes, diaper fund, very important. To that one Canadian poster who I'm sure is lurking here or will see the stream. He will assume that is the Magical Salvation Laptop Fund. If you give me enough money, I will type your name into a notepad file on my next gaming laptop, and that's your place of salvation. That's the meme. Chris Primer, these are deep fakes and lies made in Russia to undermine the credibility of America's most popular president and erode confidence in democracy. Yeah, if this becomes a mainline news story, that's what I expect they would report. Amasong, hello there, young child. Spoon, I'd like to inquire about your spoons. I get the salad fingers reference. By the way, excellent mini-series there. Look up Salad Fingers if you want some good, wholesome 2000s-esque material. David Firth has not deviated from being extremely edgy over time. I admire him greatly for doing so. Alexandra Otroska. We all know Hunter is a dirtbag, but somebody has made him this way. Him plus the diary plus sniffing Joe paints a pretty dark picture. Yeah, other people have mentioned that. It's like, was Hunter sexually abused as a kid? Along with Ashley Biden, potentially? I wouldn't put it past Joe. Assuming that this is true, put fucking 2 and 2 together. The president's a pedophile. Yes, Joe Biden, if this is true, I would allege that he's a pedophile. He seems to be. Seems to, he also likes older women, so he doesn't seem to really care. Apparently, it's boys and girls. Simple Logic 90. Sam Hyde is trying to get a fight with Hassan Piker. My God, it would be like the glory days of 2015 again. I have a feeling that Hassan Piker would pussy out in such a thing. I don't think that he would take the deal, unless he was paid really fucking well. And Hassan Piker makes millions of dollars peddling socialism and welfare to other people. He's a good Democratic politician in training. You'd have to pay him 7 figures, and who would want to watch Hassan Piker pussy out and get beaten up anyway? 0.024. PP does not refer to Joe. I have the files. People can't read. The contact is on iPad. However, same number on iPhone is Natalie. Can I DM you on Twitter? You can DM me, but why would Pedo Peter be the nickname for Natalie Biden, who Hunter allegedly molested? That wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. It's possible, I suppose. And Hunter's cracked out, so you can't necessarily expect a huge amount of cerebral coherence there. Fubar 2020, if Joe Biden gets reelected, however unlikely that may be, I give up all hope for America being saved. I don't think it would matter because the House is going to go so heavily Republican that the MAGA crowd will control it. So they'd be able to stymie most of the worst damage. James M. sent $50. Thank you. I think the point of the Hunter Biden release is to show once and for all that there are two classes of people, us and elites, and that they are untouchable. Yeah, well, I mean, the average person of at least average intelligence already knows that. It's like that old Vermont adage I always repeat. The law is like a spider's web. The flies get caught and the wasps go free. The Bidens happen to be wasps, literally and figuratively. That's why they don't get along with Kamala. Hopium Gardner, Fox, excuse me, we can't talk about Soros on this network news. Yes, remember that little classic? Yes, with Newt Gingrich, then declaring it verboten at the time, I believe. Angry Warhawk, what are your predictions for Ukraine? A long stalemate and a lot of death, and arms dealers making a lot of money, informing U.S. and Western European policy to pressure them to continue saying to people that it's some great patriotic struggle. So yeah, the first news of the day is that the allegation is that Peter Henderson, which is provably Biden's pseudonym, which he's used on multiple accounts, phones, etc., has led to Hunter labeling him Pedo Peter in his contacts. That's the allegation. I didn't make the news. I'm just reporting it. I have no clue if it's true. I'm hoping it's not. I'm hoping that Joe just creeps mainly on older women and that his interactions with young girls are just like inadvertently creepy. Like he's like, okay, he's one of the good old boys from the 50s. People hug and shit like that. I'm hoping that that's the case and that this is actually false. Unfortunately, it doesn't appear to be. Fuse32, finally caught you live. Thanks, YouTube, for never letting me know. Congratulations on becoming a father. Love your work, man. Thank you very much. $20 will buy several packets of diapers. Yeah, boy. Yeah, I'm getting into dad joke mode. I'm definitely a father when I get excited if someone sent me a crate full of diapers. Joseph Rowland, do you think Roe v. Wade is going to affect the Senate race? No, not particularly. It doesn't appear to have had any effect on polling. Next, speaking of Roe v. Wade, we have a slightly funny article. I actually like the idea. Floating abortion clinic in Gulf of Mexico proposed to bypass bans. The idea is to provide a clinic aboard a ship in federal waters out of reach of state laws. This is from the AP. A California doctor is proposing a floating abortion clinic in the Gulf of Mexico as a way to maintain access for people in southern states where abortion bans have been enacted. Now, I've got several thoughts about this. Firstly, as someone who is pro-choice, I will always point that out. I like the idea of giving access to abortion to people who require it. In some of these states, there's no exception, even if a woman's life is in danger. I think that's rather draconian and wrong. If she sees raped or something like that, some sort of problem with the pregnancy. Imagine you get a genetic test and you find out, hey, your baby is going to have Down syndrome. They're going to be reliant on the state for their entire life, but you have to keep it. You have to keep the Gollum baby. I don't think that that's right. What I would say is I support this idea. However, I would point out this really would only be help for people that are within however many miles of the coast in those states. It's not entirely clear that it's going to really affect things. It's a good idea. It's a novel attempt. You'd probably be better off having a flying abortion clinic, honestly. Well, we're up in the sky. We're not in state territory. You can have your abortion at 10,000 feet. Wonder if they could do that. Probably medically speaking, they wouldn't be allowed to do so. The basic concept, though, is a good idea, which is that women, I do believe, have a right to choose. I'm unrepentant about pointing this out, by the way. And some of these state laws are overly draconian. What I would say to the leftoids out there, which I'm assuming is part of this, you caused this. You literally caused this by suing in the Dobbs case, knowing that there was a conservative Supreme Court. And you did that after the right-wing states retaliated effectively against the Virginia law with Northam, allowing effectively up to the point of birth abortions. The left pushed the fucking goddamn issue. It couldn't stop rocking the boat. It couldn't let go of the issue. And that's what caused the mess that these people are now in. I feel sorry for women who are raped or who have some sort of health complication who live in these states. This is a novel idea, and I really like novel solutions to ideas. It also shows the non-necessity of having Roe v. Wade when you really think about it. The fact that Roe fell is not stopping them from putting boats out in federal waters a few miles offshore and just transiting people. Can't prosecute them. They're in federal waters at the time. They're not even another territorial state. So it's going to be a little bit of a long shot to bring a criminal case against them if you're in one of those states. As far as the Senate goes, no. I still believe that the Republicans are likely to take it by a seat or two, but we're not sure. That's much more close than the House. We'll see what happens in the midterms. Wash Warrior, salad fingers or strong bad? Salad fingers, definitely. Salad fingers is one of my favorites. It's exactly the right balance of funny and creepy. Apache Senpai, isn't aborting a baby with Downs eugenics? They wouldn't be reliant on the state if we bring back the importance of the family. Well, the family would need that extra support in many cases. You got some family, they don't have a lot of money and stuff. They're not going to be able to do it themselves. That baby is going to require intensive extra care for their entire life. If you can, really call it. I mean, how are you really living a life when your cognitive capabilities are incommensurate with being able to make your own decisions? You have to have a fucking keeper around 24/7 to make sure that you don't haul off and do crazy shit. I don't know. As far as eugenics, yeah, I mean, you can claim that. That's okay. CyberChud 2077. Ectopic pregnancies and pregnancies that endanger the mother's life are not abortions. Abortion is ending a viable pregnancy. False. It is still an abortion. It's just done for a pragmatic reason. And a couple of these states don't even have that exception. They may make one if they're not completely batshit insane, but they don't currently have one on the books. And I think South Dakota, and I can't remember the other one. There are 2 or 3 states that don't have any exception whatsoever. By the way, Iceland has effectively eliminated Down syndrome by genetic testing. But that can be done in the first trimester. You don't need to wait. You don't need to go full Ralph Northam or some shit like that. Nobody supports that. So yeah, number 2, floating abortion clinics. It's a novel idea. It may not be very pragmatic, but it's novel at least. Now they need abortion blimps. They're going to make a bunch of blimps with abortion clinics in them. They probably could pull it off. Matt Danny, Murphy's Law dictates the abortion ship got wrecked in a storm when packed to the stem to stern with active abortions taking place. It's possible. I think I propose abortion blimps. That's what I propose. Yeah. Great big ass blimp that has an abortion clinic in it. I mean, come on. The idea would be funny too, so. Sebastian Monroe, working but clanking. Good interview you had, by the way. Yes, and by the way, Sleazy did get over 15,000 subscribers. So Clankers helped boost him up there. I think that's his second most watched video already. We'll try to get it to number 1, by the way. Keep watching the interview if you haven't already. Go to Sleazy P. Martini's channel. In fact, let me drop a link to his fucking page. That's not what I want. I don't want the video page. I want the actual account. Let me drop this over on YouTube really quickly while we have a lull in the news so that people can subscribe to his channel. Those who work with me, I treat them very well, don't I? I do what I can. Let me get on YouTube here. I got 20,000 tabs open. I'll put that in chat. Or for slow mode, I wouldn't even be able to pin my own comment. Okay, there's a message pinned if you're watching this video on YouTube. Please go to that link as well and subscribe to Sleazy P. Martini. He did interview me the other day. He will be my midterm co-host. Remember, we will be live not just on YouTube, but on Rumble and on Twitch for the midterms. I may be able to get live on other platforms. We're still going to have to hash out the details. There may or may not be guests. There will be subtopics, I'm sure, general banter. It's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, Mark Guidetti. Sticks, you are wrong. Ectopic pregnancy is never an abortion according to Planned Parenthood, every state government, and the dictionary. I don't give a shit. It's still an abortion. It's the removal of fetus from the body of the female. Anything else is just nitpicking. Trash Panda, is it possible to get out of the Paris Climate Accord permanently? If not, then it will just be a back and forth thing for who knows how long. Yeah, potentially. If enough countries were to leave it, it would just be just collapse. Battle Elf, are you pro-sterilization too? No, I don't believe in forcible sterilization, except for child molesters like Joe Biden. My second nephew, good morning, beautiful day, one at a time. The future is bright. So bright, I gotta wear shades, dude. Anyway, yeah, we've got, yeah, that was the second news story. Number 3, we've got some polls. Texas Governor Abbott versus O'Rourke. Right now, all the leftoids are saying, well, Greg Abbott needs to go. Beto for Texas. I hate to tell you, dude, but it's not going to happen. Well, I don't hate to tell you. I love the fact that it's not going to happen. Let's look at a few polls here, 3 of which are actually part of the aggregate, but there are other polls that are reasonably recent. They comport to a pretty linear trajectory as far as Greg Abbott versus Beto O'Rourke. And it doesn't surprise me in the least. Who the fuck would want to vote for Beto? Apparently about 35-40% of the Texas public. By the way, this is considerably less than you might otherwise guess if you believed in the demographics as destiny thing. Supposedly, Texas should be blue right now. Beto's supposedly a really strong candidate. He did come within a few points of knocking off Ted Cruz, and if he had, who gives a shit at this point? Let's look at some polls. UT Texas Tribune, Abbott +6. CBS News, Abbott +8. Quinnipiac, Abbott +5. DMN, which I don't know what that stands for, Abbott +7. University of Texas, Abbott +11. These are all reasonably recent, so since April. Before that, you got Texas Lyceum, Abbott +2. That's everything else is dated here. There is effectively no chance that Beto O'Rourke is going to become governor of Texas. By the way, a little bit of an I told you so, again, to the demographics is destiny crowd, which kept telling me Texas is inevitably going to become a far blue state because more Hispanics are there. Has that happened, or has that trend reversed significantly in the last couple of years? Again, I love saying I told you so, so I'll say it a fucking again. Now, Beto O'Rourke is not going to win. We'll be covering Liz Cheney separately. She's doomed too. It was funny because there was a post, I think earlier today, I can't remember which legacy media outlet, and they're like, well, Liz Cheney might be in trouble in Wyoming. You think? 30 points behind Hageman? Yeah, she might be in a little bit of trouble. As in, like, if every Democrat in the state eligible to vote signed up in the primaries as Republicans and voted for Liz Cheney, she would still come in short of the votes she needs. I think she might be in trouble. Ryan Colaras, abortion is the removal of an intrauterine pregnancy, an implanted embryo capable of achieving a live birth. An ectopic pregnancy is not capable of achieving live birth, not an abortion. Okay, is it life? Let me ask you that. For people that are against the concept of any abortion at any time. Has it been fertilized? It's been conceived. An egg and a sperm combined, they've created what you define as life. How then is it not murder to remove the ectopic pregnancy? You'd say, well, the woman will die otherwise. So why would that matter? You're still murdering the fetus, effectively, according to your own. I mean, here's the thing. If you want to be anti-abortion, I understand. I understand there's a moral framework usually for that. It's murder, it's a life, etc. Okay, I can respect that. But stop namby-pambying it and saying, well, but there are exceptions. Let's not go too far here. If you really believe that it's murder, there shouldn't be an exception for rape. There shouldn't be an exception for the baby's going to be fucked up beyond all recall. Oh, they're going to have cried to shat and die in the first couple of weeks after being in pain for nonstop? Well, it shouldn't matter. It's the Lord's will, right? Be consistent. That's all that I ask. I don't have a problem with people that are anti-abortion, that are highly pro-life, but be consistent with it. Just like people that are pro-abortion. In many cases, they really do muddy the waters. Well, I really have a problem with it. I do think it's a life, but I'm pragmatic about it. No, just be purely pragmatic. If you're going to look at it from a civic perspective, just be civic. Don't even drag the moral argument into it. And if you're going to, take a side, because there's fairly clear-cut sides to take, and stand with it. And don't be a pussy about it. Hopium Gardener. Where are you here? Jesus Christ. I can barely keep up with these. I should put slow mode back to 180, I think. Hopium Gardener, you confuse me, Mr. Sticks. You're rightfully against circumcision and consider it child abuse, but are pro-choice. No hate. Well, circumcision happens after the child has already been born. Banning abortion past the point of viability is perfectly okay in my mind. See, I take up a civic and pragmatic line. I don't take up a moralistic one. Ironcaster, Beto's moving to Michigan. Beto O'Rourke is? Why the hell is he running for governor? I mean, he's going to lose, so maybe afterwards he will. In Michigan, he could probably win. That's the real problem. Sigil Stone 17. Abortion Ships is begging for Kermit Gosnell 2.0. Or Kermit the Frog. TJ Mars. The government should effectively end the welfare system. They're living off taxpayer dollars. Make accountability and responsibility great again. Only if the government equally gets out of everything else and stops hyper-regulating the market and suppressing free trade and competition. Then it would work. If you don't do that, then you have to have a welfare system. By the way, that's sort of the government's plan. The big guy, which is Uncle Sam, always gets much more than that 10%, by the way. John, my grandma is scared by the mainstream media about having to eat the bugs and living in a pod. What can I say to her to put her mind at ease? Not much. That is what they are pushing for. Just that most people disagree with them, I suppose. And they're actually fighting back. We'll be talking about the ignominious burning of the Bill Gates, what was it, a fucking grocery store here in the Netherlands last night. James M. Forgot to tell you, my wife and I love you, bruh. Thank you very much. More diaper money. Crypt Keeper, have you commented on the protests in the Netherlands yet, or did I miss it? Yes, I've made not only a standalone, but mentioned it twice or 3 times now in live streams. We will be talking about the Bill Gates Netherlands outlet as well. God, I can't even get to the news. Anyway, here's a big story. It's one that is the ultimate cringe. It is the ultimate symbol of the left completely melting down. Apparently, there has been a debate, if you can call it that, on Twitter, about the concept that Anne Frank had white privilege. You know, Anne Frank, Otto Frank, and all the others hidden in the attic, Anne Frank's diary during the Holocaust. Apparently, according to some people on the left, the fact that she had light skin, Jewish ethnically, but white, broadly European, means she had privilege. So I guess, I don't know, the idea is that she had extra food or some shit up there in the attic when, you know, she was being hunted by Nazis, I guess. This is a serious argument that they're making, and they're defending it too. They're actually attempting to take the high ground on this claim. Here's a link in the description, archived, of course, from a tweet by Max Nordau. Critical race theory is the belief that Anne Frank had white privilege. Yeah, you are correct. Definitely, this is tied into the leftoids endorsing critical race theory and things like that. So I guess the idea is that if you're about to be hunted down and killed or put in a death camp or something, the fact that you have light-colored skin will save you. You have a lot of privilege. Yeah, I heard that Anne Frank, instead of getting 500 calories a day, they took pity on her because she had light skin, so they gave her 600. I hear she had her own blanket in Auschwitz. That appears to be what the left is claiming. Oh my God. I mean, it's grave humor at some point, but it's like, how retarded are you? And the optics of it are equally stupid. It's like, again, even if you believe that, even if you, and you know, you have to be dumb to believe it, but if you do, why the hell would you say it fucking publicly? And under other circumstances, like if instead you said, well, Anne Frank, she didn't have white privilege. Let's say a right-winger criticizes Anne Frank or anyone from that period. They'll get crucified. No bank account, no job. You get fired. You get crucified online. You get dragged. You get banned everywhere. Are we going to see a similar reaction to the leftoids that are claiming this? To be clear, white privilege does not exist. It is a myth. It is a racist myth against white people. There is no such thing. There are white people that are born up in poverty with no legal help. They are downtrodden by the system in fucking Appalachia and elsewhere, living in a goddamn trailer park. There are people who are not white who live in McMansions and make $1 million a year. There's no such thing as racial privilege. It is an anti-white racist canard. It always has been. It always will be. That they're extending it to fucking Anne Frank of all people is absolutely beyond asinine. It's one of the craziest things that I've seen. And this is the same left that wants you to eat the bugs and live in a pod and wear the chastity belt and mandatory vasectomies and shit like that. The craziness won't stop. They're spiraling around a toilet. They're the turd, and they don't even seem to realize it. They think that this is meaningful conversation. And there's no debate to be had. There's no white privilege to debate over. It's not real. So, usually when people grow up, they stop believing in the tooth fairy and Santa Claus and white privilege and all these other mythological things. Bigfoot the jury's still out, but white privilege, jury's definitely already delivered a verdict. It's not real. Pedo Peter, hey Fats, I know you spent the whole weekend looking at my son's giant hog. This is devastating to my campaign. Oh boy. Yeah, Joe Biden, supposedly his nickname was Pedo Peter in his son's device. I'm not surprised. I don't know whether it's real, but yeah. Roscoe P. Coltrane, call the blimp Dead Zeppelin. No, they just need to have Hindenburg 2.0, and they'll have an abortion clinic in it. You could probably fit 4 or 5 offices in there. You can have all the medical supplies and shit. Honestly, it's not that bad an idea. You're up in the airspace above a state, but you're not subject to the state's laws at the time. You get to cruise around at altitude for a few hours. You perform a bunch of abortions, and then you land. You can have a medical staff and everything on a blimp. Fuck the boat. The blimp can operate over terrestrial regions. Boat can only be aquatic. So many super chats, Jesus Christ. Donna K, my favorite morning news coverage. Thanks. More money for the diaper fund. Yes, buy more diapers. I should have a pyramid of them behind me just for show. Mr. Jack, I'm not black-pilled, but I think we should watch out in 2022 for any surprise fortification. Yes, be on the lookout for shenanigans and chicanery in the midterm elections. So yeah, according to the far left socialists, I'm assuming that it's a little bit at least tied in with like the Palestine people. Anne Frank had white privilege according to them. I can't even say it without laughing. John, Bigfoot, real or one of the greatest suits ever? As far as the particular footage you're referring to, I think it's a myth. I think that's fake. As far as the plausibility of some sort of group of hominids, archaic, hairy people, or an ape-like creature of some sort, intelligent or not, living in the Pacific Northwest, it is at least possible. Maybe not necessarily hugely likely, but the possibility does exist. As we move into more and more rural areas, more areas that we couldn't really explore or document before, and there are still parts of this world that are barely explored. Typically, what happens with cryptids is one of two things. We either effectively prove that it's bullshit, or we end up proving that they're real. Kangaroos were considered cryptozoological when Europeans first hit Australia. When first reports came back of a creature that was sort of a cross between a rabbit and a deer that carried its babies on its belly, people thought it was nuts. They figured they had dipped into the rum stash a little bit too much. We then found out it's true. The coelacanth is another example. Things like that. The rhinoceros, effectively. As you penetrate deeper into the jungles, into the deep oceans, giant squids. It wasn't that many decades ago, not long before my birth, giant squids were considered mythological. Now we know that there are 100-foot-long giant squids in the deep ocean. It's entirely possible that a dying giant squid at some point was on the surface and some coracle hit it in green water territory and it started thrashing around and ended up damaging the ship. And the people there spawned the mythology of getting attacked by like giant octopuses and stuff like that. We now know that it's real. The platypus is another, yes. There are no hairy trouts, but there are platypi. John, Bigfoot. Oh, you already read that one. That was what I was responding to. I'm losing my spot here. Yes, Cool Man Jr. The platypus definitely is on there, on that list. Radagast pointing out hobbits. Yeah, Homo floresiensis, a race of dwarf-like human beings that were universally, about 4 feet tall. They did exist. Not in modern times, but in antiquity they did. Fur-bearing trout are real, damn it. Okay, so yeah, we've got another news story here. This is from Rob O'Donnell. An activist doctor told a story about a 10-year-old needing an abortion, knowing that she'd be protected by doctor-patient confidentiality, but didn't expect an FOIR to police for how many 10-year-old rape victims there were in the state of Ohio. Short answer, none, because it's made up. It now appears that the story about an Ohio 10-year-old raped by her, I can't remember, father or uncle, getting an abortion in Indiana may actually be spurious. It may be propaganda. It's the sort of thing where people won't question it because of the severity of the specific story. They don't want to question it because then you're victim shaming, even if there is no actual victim. It turns out that this may not have actually happened. So this pro-abortion argument may have just been concocted in order to be pro-abortion and never actually occurred. The number of kids in the United States in any given year that are knocked up is very, very small. Typically, sexual maturity and activity begins in the mid to late teens. It doesn't start when people are 10 or 11 years old. These cases are few and far between, which is good. And in those cases, of course, I'm in favor of a 10-year-old being able to abort, obviously, regardless of any other circumstances. But the specific case may not even have existed. And people aren't, the mainline news isn't going to talk about it. Well, we've got questions to ask. The only one, the Washington fucking Post. Yes, Bezos' company, the one tied with Amazon that explicitly makes corporatist propaganda, they were the ones that first brought this up. How damning, by the way, could it be to the leftoids who spun this story and said, look, think of the children. This is a common propaganda tactic. Think of the children. This is why we need to have Northam-style 9-month abortion access all along the United States. It turns out that it may not have actually happened at all. Mazeman01, are you a Bitcoin maximalist or do you also dabble in altcoins? I hold Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, Doge, a few others. Internet computer, I've got a little bit of that. Bitcoin is the one I'm most bullish on, though. Pedo Peter, hey Fats, what do you think of my son's giant hog? Grandpa's place. I support post-birth abortion up to age 50. Yes, but only for leftoids and Gollum babies. Chad Scott, Sticks, did you see there's an interview between Jordan Peterson and Kyle Kulinski on Breaking Points debating Trump? Just dropped. Very good watch. I don't want to watch anything with boring-ass Kyle Kulinski in it. I'd rather watch Jordan Peterson just rant for an hour. Not a big fan of the left of like the Pacmans and Kulinskis of the world. Most boring fucking people ever. I'd rather watch Cenk Uygur because at some point he might just go crazy and start bellowing into the camera like a buffalo. So yeah, it turns out that the 10-year-old abortion story may be bullshit. Now we've got another one. This is from, is this ABC or NBC? Yeah, this is NBC News, sorry. Masculinity overdue for a reckoning after mass shootings, child advocates say. Programs around the country are trying to reduce violence in boys and young men by changing the perspective of what it means to be a man. Being a man does not mean gunning down a bunch of school kids, but certainly the ability to own a firearm, being independent and self-assured would be part of that. This is the typical soy-sucking, touchy-feely hippie bullshit that's spawned by the leftoids. It's funny. It's funny how you're trying to reduce violence in boys and young men. Why is that? Is it because statistics say that the vast majority of violent criminals are male? Of course, there are females that do that. They just get prosecuted less. Okay. Would you like to focus on a different demographic with regards to this and remake your news story? Or in other words, do you want half of your sponsors to call you racist or bigoted and flee? Why is it acceptable to ridicule young men and pretend like it's their fucking problem and it's not the fucking problem at some point of society? If we talk about crime statistics in the racial sense, people will say, well, you have disadvantaged communities, that leads to more crime. When one crime potentially leads to another and pretty soon you've shot somebody. That is true. Disadvantaged community, There's fucking drugs everywhere and single parent or really no parent homes. Yeah, with that societal discohesion, you end up with more crime. Why is it not acceptable to point out that young males have been continuously abused, harassed, and alienated for years and years, not even just starting with Gamergate? You want to play a video game? You're an incel. You don't want to play a video game, want to go to the gym? You're a goddamn lunk. You want guns? You're a violent person. You don't want guns? There's something psychologically wrong with you. At every possible opportunity, young males are harassed and abused endlessly, and there's never any repercussions for that. No shit. You lock society down. You rob people of the ability to get a job because the boomers have crippled the economy. Idiots like Biden especially, too. He's even older than the fucking boomers are. You ridicule the person constantly. You make it acceptable to bully them. You even make it a running joke in your fucking comedy shows. And you wonder why some of these people snap. It's not a justification for mass shootings or any form of crime, but you can kind of understand it now, can you? Hey, look, this person is moronic. They're ugly. They can't jump. They don't know how to season their food. They're boring. They're evil and racist all the time. They're a horrible person. And then the person says, fuck off. Oh my God, what violent language from that person. Every single goddamn time. What we should be doing is encouraging young men to be young men. Go ahead and be a bit rowdy, but don't hurt other people. We should supply them with an economy that allows them to actually get a job. We should supply them with a society that doesn't constantly ridicule and abuse them. And I think that there'd be less shootings. Yes, I think that they would be much more mentally healthy. Should probably bring back institutions as well. Not that that just affects young men. Westfield 90, thoughts on how much Twitter stock drops today? Probably by a lot. Fuck them. Good riddance. Smooth Bandit, did you see Shinzo Abe's party won a supermajority? No, I have not seen the results of that. By the way, we're also waiting for the inflation numbers from the United States. Probably come today, knowing my luck as soon as I stop the live stream. Pedo Peter, the left better be careful. I can't even, no, I'm not even going to read that. Sorry, dude. I'll read that. Say anything and the entire weight of the ACLU and media will descend on them. I can't even read the first part. Sorry, dude. Remember, we are live on YouTube and Twitch as well. Which reminds me, I got to go to Rumble. We got several super chats there. Meander 3, a well-earned 20 spot for the Pepperidge Farm fucking remembers drop earlier. Thank you. I, however, do not eat cookies. I never eat sweets. That's one factoid about me. No sweet drinks. I don't drink soda. I don't eat cookies. I don't eat candy. I fucking hate that shit. Tastes like shit. Feels like shit. Turns you into a pile of shit. Stop eating sweets. Cut all refined sugar that you can out of your diet. Pepe Payne, do you trust the pre-diagnosis of a fetus from the same docs who believe COVID to be real? By that logic, should Elon have aborted due to Asperger's? We trust docs on some things, but not others. There's no test for Asperger's. Down syndrome is a genetic disorder that is very, very easy to tell. You do a karyotype, you can see if there's going to be Down syndrome. Autism, Asperger's, things like that. I'm not suggesting aborting because they're going to be a spurg. I'm a bit of a spurg myself. I like to think that I must be high functioning considering my position in life. Canopies. The larger the population of a particular racial cohort, the less they will vote as a bloc. That is why U.S. whites do not vote as a bloc and Hispanics will less and less. There are 60 million in the U.S. Yeah, and many of them white Hispanics too, so. Hunter Wadley, just jumping in, how likely is it then that Biden's only bump in polls is Hunter offing himself? Because Mossad, cope with me. It wouldn't surprise me with his family. Love you, sticks, diapers, and caffeine. I'll buy both later in your name. No, I don't think Hunter will kill himself. There's no reason to. He's gotten away with it. He was whoring. He was smoking crack, probably giving crack to the hookers and to other people, perving on his young cousin, doing weird shit, and he got away with it. Embezzling tens of millions of dollars, striking quid pro quo deals. There's not even an investigation into these things. If I was Hunter Biden, I'd be chuckling about how stupid the justice system so-called was. So yeah, we got to talk about masculinity there for a minute. Then we've got another post. The Free State, New Hampshire. By the way, you should follow them on Twitter if you actually use that platform at this point. New Hampshire Democrats took to the streets today to protest school choice, tax cuts, independence, and liberty, proving once again New Hampshire is the opposite of everywhere else. Yes, it was intriguing. I saw this. A bunch of, far-left Democrats are pissed about the concept of school choice. Why? One school sucks, the other school sucks less, so you choose to send the child to the school that doesn't suck. Well, I mean, the answer is not to sit there protesting the concept of school choice. The answer is to try to improve the school that fucking sucks. Find out why it sucks. Could it be the teachers union keeps the shit teachers from being fired? And this is New Hampshire. This is a state with number 2 or number 3 educational attainment in the whole United States. They're still having this fucking shit problem. Just imagine how it is in California or Louisiana or some state like that, Missouri, the St. Louis area. Good luck busing your kid to a school there that doesn't fucking suck. And it's funny, they don't want tax cuts either. That's because they're masochistic. Although looking at this picture, it seems to be mostly old people who probably have second homes. That tends to be the Democratic core in New England, second homers. In Vermont, too. Hippies and second homers, people who often aren't even from the state to begin with. Ken Kurihara, Styx, is the Constitution the only document of its kind in the world? No, it's similar to others, Magna Carta and so forth. But it's a very useful document. I just wish the founders had gone much further in it. Amasong, I'm waiting for Hunter to sell out the big guy. That won't happen. Hunter Wadley, but Arkansas exists. True. Angry Warhawk, do you think Kamala will be president? By the way, please give my channel a mention. Okay, Angry Warhawk gets a mention here for his super chat. No, I don't think Kamala will be president, unless Joe Biden croaks tomorrow, in which case it's unfortunately inevitable. If he retires, doesn't seek a new term, if he, stands aside or something, or loses, or it was possible, Kamala is not going to become the president of the United States, unless it's through Joe Biden dying. She can't win on her own. 0% chance. She's worse at debating than he is. Then we've got Liz Cheney news. This is from Breitbart, and talk about understatements. Liz Cheney could lose GOP primary, establishment media acknowledges. Embattled Representative Liz Cheney, Republican Wyoming, is in danger of losing the August 16th Republican primary. By the way, I will be live streaming that definitely, to Trump-endorsed Harriet Hageman, the establishment media acknowledged over the weekend. By the way, Breitbart is part of the establishment media. You're missing link media. You're not legacy media, but you're missing link. Get it right, fucker. On Saturday, the New York Times' Kate Kelly and Maggie Haberman wrote a 1,418-word article that raised concerns Cheney could lose her race next month. Now, if you look at the polls, as far as this, I mean, they're still giving her a 10% chance of getting another term. I give her a 0% chance. That's because we have 3 fairly reliable polls, and all of them show roughly a 30 fucking point gap in the state. There's a problem here. If Liz Cheney managed to convince virtually all Democrats that are registered in the state to vote for her in the Republican primary, so they have to register as a Republican, take a GOP ballot instead of doing the Dem shuffle, and vote for her, she would still come in behind what she needed. Even with the turnout differential, it would be a close race, but even then, Hageman would win. The fact is that Liz Cheney will lose her job in roughly a month. Good riddance. Nobody wants her in Congress. And the problem is this, and this is the real problem. When certain politicians weigh in on things that are beyond their purview, beyond their state or locality or whatever, nobody cares. The House of Representatives is significant in this sense, in that it's made up of people who are literally solely supposed to represent the wills of their constituents, which happen to be a congressional district. They have absolutely no other purpose. They are supposed to be the closest to the constituents of any federal office, beyond the president, senators, etc. She has not represented the wishes of her constituents. The people of Wyoming overwhelmingly dislike her. They overwhelmingly do approve of Trump. They disliked, it was like a 75-25 against her voting for impeachment. She's going to lose her job. She's already come out and called the people of her own state, including her own former voters, crazies. So she's going to lose her job. And the fact is that she's not doing her job. That's why she's going to be out. Hageman, meanwhile, better. It doesn't even matter. A plurality of Republicans in the state said they would vote for literally anybody else running against her. They didn't even care who it was. Hageman could win even if people knew nothing about her. Liz Cheney isn't even campaigning right now. She's too busy in D.C. continuing the January 6th insurrection hoax, the bullshit there. She's not even in her home state. No shit, she's going to lose. Wally World, Sticks, you don't eat sweets? What about maple syrup? It's been a while since I had that too, although I will make an exception for it once in a great while. Vermonters like maple syrup because ours is the best. Westfield 90, if GOP wins, do you really think they will hold any investigations? If they do, likely go nowhere like past GOP attempts, i.e. IRS, guns to Mexico. Yeah, it might not go anywhere, but I do believe that a House run by Republicans in which a vast proportion of them are MAGA would actually investigate the investigative committee of January 6th. I do think that they would do that. There would be other investigations potentially. They may pull their punches, but they would exist. Battle Elf. Superhead Harris will be 47 and pardon Brandon and Hunter. No, I don't think she'll get in there. Again, not unless Joe Biden croaks at some point in the next couple of years. He's not mentally with it, but physically, let's face it, for a person pushing 80, he's not in terrible shape. He's losing coordination because of his mental problems, but he's not obese. He hasn't a heart attack or anything, a couple of aneurysms. So people are actually praying that Joe Biden survives just to keep Kamala out. Innersty, hello, Sticks. Finally able to catch one of your streams live. What's your opinion on New York State passing a law requiring citizens to allow the state to scrub their social media accounts to apply for a concealed carry permit? Already under lawsuit. It will be thrown out in court. It clearly violates not just the Second, but the Fourth Amendment. It's going to die off, especially when it's being reconsidered in light of Bruin anyway. Joseph La Rosa sent $1.99 without a comment. Thank you very much. Okay, so Liz Cheney's out. She's done. I even took up a challenge. Some moron on there was like, will you delete your Twitter account if Liz Cheney wins? I said challenge accepted. There's a 0% chance of it. You can't even cheat your way into a victory with polling like that. It's impossible. All of the Democrats in the state could ally with all of Liz Cheney's remaining Republican supporters. She'd still lose 55-45 or thereabouts. It is impossible. There's no logistic way forward for her. Joseph La Rosa, what's your favorite memory from your childhood? I have many fond memories of vacationing in Hampton Beach, New Hampshire, specifically Northampton. There's a little area there with a lot of tidal pools, and I would spend hours out there with my dad, especially. My mom's a little bit more hesitant towards water. She doesn't actually like to swim in a lake, swimming pool, or anywhere else. Just looking at like mussels and shit like that. Those were fun times. Great place to go, by the way. Ray's Seafood, not far north of there. Some of the best seafood stew you'll ever have. Can't wait to get back there. By the way, that place is supposedly haunted. It was on Shadowland's Haunted Index, actually. Roberto Gonzalez, I'm a fan of school choice. I didn't know how bad the California public school system was until after I got out. California will give people a high school diploma just for attending. Yeah, it's basically a daycare. And then the last news story of the day. Biden faces growing pressure to nix Trump's tariffs on China as inflation keeps raging. Yes, you heard it first here. Joe Biden, or at least he's being pressured to do this, apparently is looking into the possibility of trying to solve his inflation-related low approval by cucking to the Chinese. Well, that's interesting. It's almost like you're working for China. Of course, then when the Chinese already had their limo, the Feinstein limo driver as a spy, and Fang was banging Swalwell and compromised him, it seems like this is a repeated thing within the Democratic Party. When your son, your crack-smoking, whoring son, has also done a lot of business in China and with its vassal states and probably compromised you there, again, the writing's on the wall. Of course, he'll probably face significant pressure to do this. Biden faces growing pressure to nix some of Trump's tariffs on China. Economists argue that removing tariffs would yield relief for Americans during a punishing stretch of inflation. Why don't you just stop fucking the domestic economy? Oh, wait, that would be America first. See, Biden's America last. I think we've gotten to the crux of the problem. By the way, we've got almost 4,500 people watching live again. It's 4,300 at the moment. It keeps getting better. And fuck, it's early morning on a Monday, U.S. time. Fall V. Pollard, straight up, dog. Just a second here. Yeah. So, yeah, it looks like Biden may actually cuck to the Chinese economically. Oh, my God, there's inflation. Well, let's see. What could I do? I could lower the regulatory burden. I could free up the energy industry and stop fucking around with U.S. oil, coal, and natural gas. I could stop the horse shit that's going on in Ukraine right now and bring Russia back to the world table and marginally reduce it. I could have not encouraged lockdowns for months after they should have ended. No, I think that I'll just give the Chinese more money. It's not like they're funding the goddamn Russians through their BRICS investment schemes anyway. That's the other part. Imagine how stupid you have to be a Democrat and support this if you've got like the Ukrainian flag on your bio. Who do you think is actually paying for Russia's war? Russia doesn't have the money to pay for its own war. It's China doing that. They are the economic muscle of BRICS. If something happens in Russia, with them being aggressive diplomatically or militarily, the Chinese are directly involved. Chris Williams, Ken Akamatsu conquers Japan, ready to drive the woke out of anime and manga. With landslide election, he is the creator of Love, Hina manga. No clue what you're referring to. Ken Kurihara, Sticks, I learned a new word to describe our politicians currently in office. Kleptoparasites. What is your opinion on Tulsi Gabbard? She seems like an opportunistic neocon to me. She's not quite a neocon. She's better than some, and I don't think it's all opportunism, but she rubs me the wrong way. There is an opportunism there. She is also deeply disturbing on guns. She's a cuck Republican on that issue, so she'd be like a Crenshaw or a Lindsey Graham or a Mitch McConnell. I wouldn't want her back in office. People are they just support her because she's the surfing mama. See, she's the 40-something relatively young politician and surfs and isn't quite as crazy as some of the others. She's like a younger female John McCain to me. Hunter Wadley, Miss Piggy is suck. King Democrat phallus, though. Did Wyoming defortify? I couldn't even send more flavorful language. Rude. Wyoming was never fortified to begin with. It's one of the reddest states in the Union. There's no chance of Liz Cheney retaining her job. She is going to be out. That's why she's mentally masturbating to the thought of doing January 6th shit right now and trying to fast track it because she knows she won't be there after another month. Chad Scott, bets on inflation being over 10%. I wouldn't expect it to go that high as of the next inflation numbers, but it might reach that point in the future. I would expect it goes up by 0.2, maybe 0.3. I'll be lucky if it just remains stable. Mojo Hansen, COVID printing is coming home to roost globally. Yes, indeed. That's part of the inflation problem. Joseph LaRosa, would you say daily life was more fun before tech? In some ways, but here's the problem. People get nostalgia, and so they're like, well, it was way better before this invention, but then they don't correlate it with that was their childhood. Of course you were happier as a child. You didn't have to think of everything. You didn't have to work. Of course, actually, I'm happier than I was as a child in most ways. Having the free time and shit like that, and, you know, running around and catching fireflies is great. I kind of like being in my 30s better than any other point in my life, to tell the truth. Definitely better than my 20s. I've actually got money now. Westfield 90, do you ever see the mainstream media returning to where they hold politicians, the Dems, accountable instead of blatantly covering for them? That's been a long time since they've been doing that. They covered for W. They covered for Obama. Hell, they covered for Reagan's second term. Laszlo, on a flight and listening to Sticks. Great way to spend the morning. Also told my girlfriend about Sleazy P being the co-host. She was stoked. Yeah, now all we've got to do is try to get into contact with the Iron Sheik and get him on as a guest, and then everything will go crazy. Battle Elf, will Brandon pardon Pedo Pete? No. Because they are, in fact, the same person. Allegedly. William Latin. Hey, Sticks, I was the one who had that dream where you were the preacher at the pulpit. Your sermon was just the stuff from the live stream at that time. Yeah, we got we got 3,700 people almost watching between YouTube and Twitch. And on Rumble, we've got 800 more people watching. So yeah, I plowed through the news, but there was one other thing. What was it that I was going to talk about? Ah, shit, I bumped it off. Oh yeah, I was going to talk briefly. This is not news, but it's something important. About the folly of mental illness-related red flag laws. I was thinking about this the other day, and I was thinking to myself, there's one major problem with it. At first, it sounds good. Well, crazy people shouldn't have guns. You have to show that you're not crazy, or we're taking your pea shooter away. You run into a problem. The Democrats and the neocons want to use red flag laws to keep people that are crazy from having guns. So supposedly ideating violence, supposedly a lunatic of some sort. There's one big problem. They can still buy a car now, can't they? They can still vote. They can still buy knives. They can still do literally everything except for own a gun. Here's the problem. You could easily run over your spouse. If there's a domestic violence sort of thing necessitating red flag usage, you can use your car as a weapon. You could use a hatchet as a weapon. You could firebomb their house. You can use fertilizer. Why is it that a person that's too crazy to be able to exercise the constitutional right to keep and bear arms should be able to vote? There is none. They would be considered a criminal lunatic by the standards of the founding fathers, and they would have been institutionalized. My own opinion, of course, is red flag laws shouldn't be used at all. No person should be deprived of their constitutional rights unless they are crazy enough and vile enough to be literally in prison or institutionalized at the time, pending treatment, of course. Potentially later they get out and they're capable of doing these things. If they're not so nuts that they have to be locked away, they should be able to own a gun. And the idea of them getting them taken away in a proceeding that denies them the ability to put on a defense, of course, is blatantly unconstitutional. It violates the Second, it violates the Fourth, it violates the right to free and fair trial, it violates all sorts of fucking ordinances. For the federal government to peddle it arguably violates the 10th Amendment. Technically, it violates the First in some ways as well. Red flag laws are illegal. They shouldn't be used by any state, and really, we need a sound rebuke of both the federal government and states using them. There are about a half a dozen legal cases going forward right now based on the Bruin decision, and hopefully they're shot down, along with mag restrictions, etc. What I really want to do is I want to be back in a state of Vermont where I can actually exercise the Second Amendment properly, instead of having to move across the Connecticut River to New Hampshire in order to do that. I like New Hampshire, but I am still, high tax as it may be, filled with fucking hippies as it may be, I do like Vermont. There are many benefits to residing in that state. It's where I've been virtually my entire life. And over the gun issue alone, I'll probably have to leave the state. When I establish residency in the United States, when I buy a property or something and saving up for that now, it probably won't be in the state of Vermont. And I think that that's sad that they're chasing so many hardworking people out. I mean, pay a lot of taxes to the state, and they're going to lose that revenue. They're going to end up basically with just second homers and people on welfare that are ground down into the ground. It'll be like a rural version of San Francisco if they get their way. Lego Creation 06. Dude, I've been watching you since February 2020. You are funny and you are correct on some of your thoughts. Keep up the good work. Only some. Sticks Hexen bathrobe. Why I gotta be the one to smell your armpits daily? I know who you are. You're the one with the toolbox jokes. Gary Jean. I met Christina Caromo in Traverse City, Michigan the other day. She's running to unseat Dana Nessel as SOS, looking to help her campaign. Yeah, so Traverse City, Michigan. Christina Caromo is apparently running. Battle Elf. All I wanted was a Pepsi. I know that joke too. Westfield 90. I can't figure out Sleazy's channel. What is it? It's Sleazy P. Martini. Just look it up, silly. Mojo Hansen. What are your thoughts on Milton Friedman? Good man. Haven't read enough of his shit. Should probably get around to doing that someday. I edit so many works. It's like I'm editing 2 at a time right now. I just finished up, by the way, Ancient Mystic Oriental Masonry, which is a climber work today, the first edit. I immediately started in on a Carrington work about dreams. So I'm balls to the wall all fucking day. Not only am I doing the video uploads and the editing and the writing and all the other shit that I do, now I'm doing an hour or more of live streaming every single day. And I goddamn love it. Hunter Wadley, why does the FBI know all these people before said horrendous acts? Sounds like they're Facebook friends every time. It's because the glowing ones inspire violence in order to justify their own retarded existence. We need to disband the FBI. Anyway, I've gotten through all the news. So yeah, I oppose red flag laws, just to be clear, and civil asset forfeiture, and qualified immunity, and the existence of no-knock raids unless there's some specifically compelling current reason to do so. Oh, we suspect that this person might be selling drugs. Let's potentially get shot at, knocking down their door at 5 a.m. They're not even suspected of a violent crime, dude. What, the drugs are going to suddenly disappear if you knock on the door and give him time to respond? Yeah, I think that's really likely, dude. That's totally makes total sense. Michael Manker, yo, little sticks, I just broke in your house and ate the cat poop out of the litter box. What do you think of them apples? Ron Perlman. Yes, Ron Perlman blocked me some weeks ago, which is an epic win. You get blocked by Ron Perlman on Twitter. It took me several years of Yo Little Donnie posting every time he fucking posted. Finally, he noticed. Racy, Sticks turned me into a crackhead. Sleazy P Martini stream was great. Smoking weed with Sticks. Dimka, if you Google Hunter Biden crack, there are no results more recent than a year ago, just a message telling you to come back later. Only if you use Google, though. I happen not to have this problem. Get Yandex, or Ecosia, or Start Page. Don't use DuckDuckGo, though. DuckFuckYo is compromised and always has been. I warned you about DuckDuckGo, dude. By the way, no more Super Chats, please, because I got to finish up here. Ivan Neves, did you see Michael Moore's suggestion for a 28th Amendment to replace the Second Amendment? Ridiculous that people agree with that clown. Actually, most people were shoving his shit in and telling him he's crazy. It'd be impossible to do anyway. Battle Elf, will Brandon pardon Maxwell's clients? No, because they will never be publicly owned to begin with. Is there like some chatter in there that keeps rambling about me being a Hitler-loving eugenicist? Yeah, join the club, dude. Leftoids have claimed that sort of shit about me now for a better part of a decade. So, now 28th Amendment against guns. Yeah, I mean, you could repeal the Second Amendment if you wanted to, but you have to get a vast plurality of states, legislatures, to do so, and you don't have the votes. Not even close. If anything, the GOP is closer to being able to pass constitutional amendments with their vast control of state houses. I think it's one more state house. If they take it during the midterms, theoretically, they could trigger a constitutional convention and then move to ratify things. I would like that. Yeah, I want a 28th Amendment regarding guns. I want it specifically to reword the Second Amendment, making all gun control illegal forever and making it impossible to ever get rid of firearms. Jano66, Sticks, get in touch with Short Fat Otaku and get on his Tubcast. Would be great. Clank. No, we've already got one prospective guest, assuming that we have any at all for the midterms. It is someone that was on the last midterms, but I won't give their name out till it's, I'm going to make sure that we can actually do that. I've never had a third person on a StreamYard broadcast, so I will try to figure that out. We'll have to do an unlisted stream or figure it out. I'm not the most tech literate person in the world for all intents and purposes. By the way, we are at roughly 4,500 people. I am extremely surprised that we're able to hit this kind of numbers cross-platform, 7:30 a.m. Eastern on a Monday. Considering that 70% of my audience is based in the U.S., I never expected to get anywhere near this. I figured 1,500 is pretty good. We're 3 times beyond that. I don't know exactly how it's happening either. I suppose that people are finally getting notified, so I guess the live streams work. Anyway, we will go off here now because we've covered all the news. I did have a couple of other things like Sri Lanka that I was going to cover, but it's just too much. We're going on an hour 10 right now, and I want to do more planning if I decide to have a more extended live show in the future. I have thought about making it like an hour and a half and simply trying to pack in more material, but then sometimes you can get a slow news day. That can be a big problem. Many such cases. That's about all. Peace out.